Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive. Tonight's story is titled, The Ash in His Eyes. Let the Shadows Speak. Part 1. The Basement Light. I work nights at a seafood packing plant on the edge of Brimwater, Maine. The kind of town that still smells like old docks and diesel fumes no matter how far inland you go. It's not on most maps, and nobody who leaves ever really comes back. Some say it's the economy. I say it's the silence. Too many ghosts here. Some dead, some just bitter and breathing. I'm Nolan Barrett, 32 years old. I used to be a somebody. Now I'm just a man with calloused hands, bad teeth, and a chip on a shoulder that never really shrunk even after 4 years clean. I've got a certificate from a halfway house that says rehabilitated, but the look in people's eyes says otherwise. I live in my grandmother's house, the old one on Willow Street. Locals call it the breathing house, mostly because the wood swells and sighs when it rains, and the pipes make sounds like someone crying behind the walls. She's the only family I've got left, or had, because Eleanor isn't really here anymore. She's dying. Cancer, they say. Lymphoma, stage 4. Her body's still in the bed upstairs, barely more than bone and regret. But her eyes, they're already somewhere else. Sometimes they stare right through me, like she's watching someone else walk around in my skin. She used to call me sweet boy. Lately, she's been calling me Thomas. That was my father's name. He left when I was 12. I've been keeping the house together. Barely. The walls are splitting into corners, and the basement smells like mildew and old copper. The porch sags to one side, but it's home. Has been since I was a kid. We never went down to the basement, not even when the washer broke. Grandma said it was cursed. Let it rot, she'd mutter. Some doors close for a reason. I thought she was just superstitious, until the light came back on. It was Thursday night last week when I noticed it. I was taking out the trash, and as I passed the basement door at the back of the kitchen, something caught my eye. A glow, dim and pulsing like a heart with no rhythm. The bulb down there hadn't worked in years. I'd stopped trying to fix it after the 5th time it fried a brand new LED. But now it was on, and it stayed on. I stood there, hands still on the trash bag, just staring at that thin sliver of orange light through the basement door frame. It wasn't flickering, wasn't humming, just glowing steadily like it had been waiting. I didn't go down. Not that night. I told myself it was just faulty wiring. But in the back of my mind, a memory clawed its way forward of Eleanor whispering in the dark long before she got sick. If the light ever comes back on, don't open the door. She said it like she wasn't joking. The next morning, she was lucid. First time in weeks. She asked me to sit beside her and hold her hand. Her skin felt paper thin, her fingers curled like brittle twigs. Her eyes locked on mine. Clear, blue, terrified. He's under the house, she said. Who? She didn't blink, didn't hesitate. The man with the ash in his eyes. I told her she must have had a bad dream, that it was the morphine, but she shook her head violently, stronger than I thought she could. He's building a face, piece by piece, and I think he's missing yours. Then she smiled. Not the warm, grandmother kind. No, this was wrong. Her lips trembled in a way that didn't match her eyes. He liked your voice, she said. He told me he'll borrow it soon. I left the room shaking. That night, I had a dream. I was in the basement, standing ankle deep in cold water. The walls were breathing, expanding and contracting like lungs under drywall. A figure stood in the far corner, tall and still. I couldn't see his face, only the outline. But I heard something like fire. Not roaring, just crackling, like he was made of it. When I turned to run, my feet wouldn't move. I looked down. My legs were gone. Just bone and ash crumbling away with every step I tried to take. Then he whispered my name in my own voice. I woke up gasping. The light downstairs was still on. And now I swear, I can hear footsteps beneath the floorboards. They don't follow a pattern. They wait. Part 2. The smell of memory. The light stayed on. By the third day, I'd stopped checking it altogether. The longer I looked, the more I felt like something was looking back. And not in this silly horror movie way. I mean really looking, like it knew me. Not the me I am now, but the one I used to be. The one I tried to kill off 4 years ago when I flushed my last bag of heroin down the motel sink. That version of me? He deserved what's coming. But I've changed, right? I made the mistake of opening the basement door again Sunday night. Only to check. Only to listen. I didn't step down. I just stood there, one hand on the frame, the other curled into a fist like I might punch something I couldn't see. The smell hit me first. It wasn't mold. It wasn't rot. It was memory. Burned paper. Plastic toys. Rain on hot pavement. Cigarette butts on damp flannel. The kind of smell that doesn't belong to the room. It belongs to you. That clings to something you once did and never told anyone. The kind of smell that pulls a name out of your mouth before you even realize it. Eli, I whispered. I hadn't spoken that name in 17 years. Eli Hayes, my first real friend. We were both 12. He had a crooked smile and a weird obsession with lockpicking. We used to break into abandoned houses and pretend they were dungeons. One day, we broke into a place that wasn't empty. Some squatters scared the piss out of us. Literally in Eli's case. I never let him live it down. Then one night, Eli didn't come home. They never found him. I told the cops I hadn't seen him that day. But I had. He'd asked to come over. I'd said no. Told him I was busy. I felt something move in the dark below me. Not a shape. A thought. Like the memory had grown legs. I slammed the door. The next morning, I got a call from Lisa. She's a nurse practitioner who used to supervise my methadone schedule before I aged out of the clinic. We kept in touch. She checked in sometimes. Usually just quick texts. This time it was a voice call. "You sound like shit," she said. "You always say that. And you never prove me wrong." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Still living on Willow?" "Yeah. That house, it's old. Your grandma used to talk about it like it had lungs." "She still does," I muttered. Pause. "Have you seen it?" That caught me off guard. Seen what? The man with the soot voice. My hand gripped the phone tighter. "You heard that from her too?" Lisa didn't answer. Not for a full 10 seconds. Then she said, "I've been looking into some of the things Eleanor said before the cancer spread. Stuff about memory, reflections, missing faces. I thought it was dementia at first, but there are patterns, Nolan. Names. Phrases. Some of the other hospice patients I've worked with said similar things. Not all, but enough to scare me. Like what? Like the idea that something watches from under the house. That it waits until the mind is fragile enough to enter. That it doesn't need to touch you to wear you." I didn't respond. I couldn't, because I've been dreaming of mirrors. And in every single one, my reflection was just a little too late. I walked into the kitchen and found Grandma standing in front of the basement door, staring. The light was still on. "Don't go down there," I said gently. She turned her head slowly. Her lips quivered like she wanted to speak, but her mouth just opened and stayed that way. Then she said, "He remembers you better than you do." "What?" "He remembers Eli." I froze. She stepped aside and walked back to her room like nothing happened. That night, I dug through an old photo box. Dusty and bloated with time, it hadn't been touched since before she got sick. I was looking for a picture of me and Eli. I remember one, us standing by the Brimwater Pier, holding a dead crab like it was a trophy. I found it, but we weren't alone. In the corner, half obscured by glare, was a tall blur. No face, no detail, just ash-gray static, like something had burned into the photo from behind the glass. And when I ran my thumb over it, the surface felt warm. Lisa called again that night. I didn't pick up. I was too busy staring into the bathroom mirror. Not at myself, but the faint outline behind me. He was getting clearer. Part 3. The hollow place. The days started blending. I'd wake up and not remember going to bed. Meals skipped. Whole afternoons vanished like they were never mine to begin with. I'd stare at the microwave clock and realize I'd lost 2 hours doing nothing. Sometimes I find my hands wet or covered in ash. I stopped trusting the mirrors. They weren't just slow to follow, they'd linger. My reflection would stay a second longer than it should, blinking when I wasn't. I started covering them with bed sheets. Bathroom, hallway, kitchen. Even the microwave's reflection creeped me out. But it didn't help, because I started seeing my face in places it didn't belong. Once, I opened the fridge and saw my own face reflected in a jar of pickle brine. Another time, I looked into the pot of boiling water, and there it was again. My eyes, but not mine. The color was off, the pupils too wide, too hungry. Sometimes, I'd hear my voice behind me, breathing. Lisa came by on Wednesday. She brought groceries and pretended she didn't see the state of me. The bloodshot eyes, the scratches on my arm, the shaking hands. I hadn't told her about the dreams, or the basement, or the way Grandma sometimes whispered prayers in languages I didn't know. But she knew something was wrong. She sat me down, handed me a cup of instant coffee, and said, "Nolan, I need to ask you something serious." I nodded. "How long have you been hearing your name when no one's speaking it?" I dropped the mug. The crash echoed through the house like a gunshot. Grandma didn't stir. I stared at the broken pieces on the floor like they might rearrange themselves into an answer. "I didn't tell you about that." Lisa didn't blink. "You didn't have to." She pulled a folded page from her coat pocket. It looked like a photocopy, blurry, faxed too many times. It was a journal excerpt. "I found this in a defunct medical archive," she said, "from a psychiatric patient at the Old Baywater Asylum." She tapped a line with her nail. "He doesn't enter through doors. He waits in your lapses. He molds himself from what you forget. I woke up without a name yesterday. I think he wore it." I read it again and again. Something in my chest clenched. A slow, squeezing guilt I couldn't place. "You think I'm being replaced?" I said. Lisa's expression didn't change. "I think he's building you backwards," she said. "What does that mean?" She looked down. "I don't know, but it keeps showing up, the concept of subtraction. Not possession, not haunting, erasure. Like, piece by piece, you stop being the sum of your memories and start becoming what he needs you to be." Later that night, I found Grandma standing at the window. She wasn't looking out. She was looking at her own reflection in the glass. Or maybe something beyond it. "He wants your pain," she said softly. "But he can't take it until you offer it." I didn't respond. I just stood beside her and watched the fog build on the window pane. When she turned to me, her eyes were clearer than they'd been in weeks. "He likes Eli, but he loves the one you forgot." My mouth went dry. "Who?" I asked. She smiled. "You." I slept in the hallway that night, back against the wall, knife under my pillow. I dreamed of a hospital room that didn't exist. Fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Lisa was there, but her face was wrong. Mouth too wide, eyes too calm. She held a mirror to my face and said, "You've always looked like him." I looked, and I saw nothing. Just smoke where my face should be. I woke up screaming. The hallway smelled like burned fabric, and something was scratching at the inside of the basement door. 3 long, slow drags, like fingernails remembering how to make noise. I went to Lisa the next morning. She didn't answer the door. Her car was there, keys in the ignition, but no Lisa. I called her name until my throat burned. Inside the house, everything was cold. Not physically, emotionally, like it had been abandoned mid-sentence. I found her phone on the table. The screen was cracked, still buzzing. There was a draft email open. Subject line, "If I disappear, message. Check the mirrors. Not the ones on the walls. The ones in your head. That's where he waits. That's where he fits. The Ashman doesn't kill you. He leaves you empty enough for others to see through. I don't remember how I got home, but when I walked into the house, all the mirrors were uncovered, and in every single one, I wasn't alone. My reflection had guests. They stood behind me. Not shadows, not memories. Faces, dozens of them, all made of ash, all smiling. Part 4. The voice that answers. The mirrors were uncovered. Every single one I draped, bathroom, hallway, even a microwave, was now bare. And they weren't showing what they should. They weren't even showing the room anymore. Just me, or something like me. Dozens of versions of me. Slight differences. A scar I don't remember having. Teeth too white. Eyes too dark. One version blinked a second too slow. Another smiled when I flinched. Some didn't move at all, just stared like mannequins waiting for direction. Then they all mouthed something at the same time. No sound, just a word. Empty. I smashed the bathroom mirror first. Then the hallway one. The kitchen one wouldn't break, just bent inward like liquid glass. I ran outside, breath ragged, sweat pouring, even though the air was frigid. I didn't stop until I hit the woods behind the house. Only then did I hear the voice. Mine, but not. Nolan. It was calm, gentle, familiar, and it was behind me. I turned too fast. My heels slipped in the pine needles, and I went down hard. The trees leaned in, long and spindly like arms stretching from the sky. There was no figure, no body. But the voice came again. Closer. You've worn yourself thin. Let me carry the weight. My head pounded. I gritted my teeth. Show yourself. And then he did. He didn't rise from the dirt. He peeled from it, like ash soaked in blood, pulling together, wrapping around a skeleton made of memory. The shape was human, mostly, but the surface of him shifted. Photos, reflections, gestures, tics, twitching facial expressions I'd only seen in the mirror. His skin was a collage of what I'd forgotten. Old wounds, discarded faces, faces I couldn't name anymore. I tried to scream, but choked on the cold air. He didn't move toward me. He didn't need to, because part of me wanted him closer. You don't understand, I said. I didn't choose to forget. It wasn't my fault. His voice trembled, not from weakness, but pleasure. That's what makes you edible. The trees fell away. So did the ground. So did the sky. I wasn't in Brimwater anymore. I stood in the hallway of my childhood apartment. The one with the cracked linoleum floors and the damp smell that clung to the ceiling. My mother sat on the couch, needle in her arm, television playing static. My younger self stood in the doorway, not moving. I should have saved her, I muttered. The Ashman stepped beside me. You didn't even call the ambulance. The scene shifted. I was 17, hiding in a janitor's closet at school, while another kid cried on the other side of the door. I'd taken his pills. I told the principal I hadn't seen him. You said he was weak. No, I whispered. I didn't mean it. He smiled. Memory after memory. Some I remembered, some I didn't, flickered like a projector running too fast. A girl's name I couldn't place. A suicide note I helped someone write, but never delivered. A time I laughed when I should have cried. Each fragment was sewn into Ashman's body. Each regret, a patch. Each forgotten act, a brick. And the more I watched, the more he looked like me. Why me? I asked. Why not someone worse? His grin widened. Because you forget with love. Because you bury what hurts. And when you bury things, I can plant roots. I dropped my knees. My own face stared down at me. You invited me. Every time you said, it wasn't that bad. Every time you said, I don't want to think about it. Every time you chose peace over truth. He stepped forward. His shadow stretched over me. And now you're almost ready to be worn. I woke up screaming. Back in my room. Bed soaked. Windows open. And Grandma was gone. I found her in the basement, sitting calmly on the bottom step. The light above her was steady, but it wasn't a bulb. It pulsed like a slow heartbeat, lighting the walls from inside the concrete. And carved into those walls, names, dozens, maybe hundreds, some crossed out, some fading, some fresh. Eleanor, Lisa, Jared, Thomas, Nolan. My name was there 3 times. She turned to me, smiled. Her eyes were completely gray now. No iris, no white. Just ash. It's warmer down here, she said. He remembers everything I tried to forget, even the little things. Her voice was her own, but it carried another underneath. A low harmony, deep and hollow, like she was being echoed. I stepped toward her, and she began to hum. The same hymn she used to sing when I was 6 and feverish. The one that made me cry and hide under the blankets. She stood, and then she said, "He needs one more piece, sweet boy. Just one." I didn't ask what. I already knew. Back upstairs, I found a mirror in my room uncovered. For a moment, it showed only me. Tired, unshaven, hollow. Then I blinked, and the reflection stayed smiling. I don't remember falling asleep. I don't remember the sun rising. I just remember the voice again. I'm almost finished. Part 5. The name that follows. I don't think I ever came back up from the basement. I walk the halls. I answer the phone. I heat soup. I tuck blankets around an empty bed. But I'm not sure it's me doing those things. Sometimes I'll look in the mirror and recognize my hands, but not the way they move. Or I'll speak, and the voice is mine, but shaped strangely. Too clean, too sharp, like someone remembering how I used to sound. There's something else now. A hesitation, like the world pauses to let me catch up. Yesterday, I found an old letter I didn't write, folded neatly under my pillow. No envelope, no signature, just one line written in my handwriting. "Your face fits." I tried calling Lisa again. No answer. Her voicemail didn't sound like her anymore. It used to end with a little laugh. Now it ends in static. I called Jared. Disconnected. I called my own number. A voice picked up, breathless. It whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." I tried to leave Brimwater, packed a bag, walked to the bus station, bought a one-way ticket west. I was alone on the platform. Even the pigeons kept their distance. When the bus pulled in, I stepped aboard. The driver didn't look at me, didn't say a word, just pointed toward the back. I found a seat near the window. The lights overhead flickered. I stared out the glass and watched as the street rolled by. But the same house kept appearing, over and over. Grandma's. The bus wasn't moving forward. It was circling. I got off, walked home. The front door was already open. That night, I found another name scratched into the hallway wall. Yours. Not Nolan. Not Eli. Not Jared. Not Lisa. Not even a name from my past. It was your name, etched in shallow lines like a finger dragged across damp wood. The Ashman isn't just wearing me. He's wearing time. He's stretching out past the page. I don't sleep anymore. Sleep implies dreams. Dreams imply waking. I just close my eyes and listen to him breathe through my lungs. Sometimes I catch myself mid-sentence, having no idea what I was saying. Sometimes I see someone standing at the edge of the room and realize it's me, or what's left. I don't think the Ashman ever wanted to kill me. I think he wanted something much simpler. A mask, a voice, a name he could carry, and I gave it to him one small memory at a time. Here's what no one tells you about being hollow. You don't feel empty. You feel crowded, full of echoes, laughter that isn't yours, pain you don't remember feeling, smells that trigger nothing, and behind it all a hunger, not yours, but inside you anyway. He doesn't hide in basements anymore. That was never the point. The basement was just the start, a crack, a gap. He lives where the forgetting begins. So I write this now, not as a warning, not really, more like a translation. Because if you've made it this far, he's already reading over your shoulder. Maybe you felt it too. That moment where your reflection frowns before you do. That familiar photo where someone in the background looks too tall, too still. That second you forget why you enter the room and feel someone else waiting inside. If so, then you already know. You've been chosen, not for punishment, for inheritance. He needs a place to go, a name to wear, a voice to echo, and maybe, just maybe, you'll fit better than I did. Before my grandma faded completely, she looked at me one last time, and in a voice that wasn't hers anymore, she said, "He was never talking to you, Nolan. He was talking to them. He is coming for you."
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.